Hey traders, in today's video, I've got 5 tips I want to share with you that I know are going to make a difference in your trading. Alright guys, you know the deal. If you find value in today's video, all I ask is that you give me a big thumbs up to help the YouTube algorithm spread this video and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of my future videos. For those of you that are new, my name is Austin Silver. I'm the co-owner here at ASFX, and I really appreciate you giving me the time. I know that these 5 tips are going to make an impact on your trading, but comment below. After you watch all 5 tips, let me know which of the 5 sticks out to you or is going to really make a difference for you think, going forward. I just want to know. I'm curious. So let's get right into it. Tip number 1, it's always know your risk. And I know that might seem simple to some of you guys, but to some traders, to some new traders, it's not that simple. I've talked to a lot of people who get into trading and think that it's perfectly fine to have a stop loss at 20 pips, or some of them think it's fine to have no stop loss at all, but we're going to just assume that everybody is using a stop loss, because now you know tip number 1 is know your risk. Some of these guys are using 20 pip stop losses, but they're only trying to make 10 pips. That's not good risk reward. So when I say control your risk, know your risk as tip number 1, that means use a stop loss. That means understand how much money you're willing to lose. And that also means, the icing on top here, don't move that stop loss once you decide you're going to take the trade, because the potential reward is also going to be able to be measured. So once you know your risk, you'll know your reward, and that's when you can look to take a trade. But without knowing your risk, without using a stop loss, I would not recommend taking a trade. Tip number 2 is more technical. So as you can see, we're looking at the silver chart, XAG/USD, on the 15-minute time frame. These colorful lines are called exponential moving averages. They're how I read trend. My candles are black just because I think it removes a lot of the emotion that colorful candles can create. Now I have other videos on my channel, if you haven't seen those before, that go into the EMAs and why my candles are this way. But here, for tip number 2, we're going to focus specifically on zones, key levels that we see price bounce off of. And I spent a lot of my time looking for exact price levels. I wanted to put price at one horizontal line, and I thought that was the level that it had to hold or the world was going to end. But that's just not the case. Forex, in a lot of ways, trading in a lot of ways, any market, it is not that cut and dry. It's not that black and white. So what I found to be more successful is using zones. So what I do, I have a 2-candle rule. Here is my support zone for the day. How did I draw that? Well, first, let's make this a little darker so you guys can see. We'll make it red here, and the background, we'll make that red as well, so everybody can see that, right? Now, how I did this, it follows my 2-candle rule. If we see a wick, like we see here, where the 2 candles to the right and the 2 candles to the left of this bar are not lower, that is a support zone. In the same sense, you could draw resistance if on top here, on this wick, if the 2 candles to the left and the 2 candles to the right are not higher, and they're not. So here's how I draw my zones where I know price could drop off of, show support to, or just chop in between. These are key levels. And notice, if we draw this like this, you can see here's a test of that zone, here's a test of that zone. Notice how it breaks through this zone, and where does it go to? That original support zone. But now, if you were to just say remove these, if you were only using horizontal lines like this, this technically broke that level, right? So you guys can see why zones are the way to draw your support and resistance levels, your key levels, more so than horizontal lines. Tip number 3 is going to be focused on locking my stop loss and taking profits. None of these trades that people show on social media are winners until the trade is actually closed. You could be up 20,000%, but if you don't close the trade, it's not actually going to be profiting your account. So here we're looking at an example of a recent trade that I took on Euro AUD. This was a trade, as I'm going to show you it develop here, candle by candle, through the replay mode. As it moved lower here with this bar, this is when I started to lock my stop loss just in case it wanted to turn around. This divergence that we have present on the bottom here, as this RSI is rising and price is falling, that was the signal that we might see this not come lower. But there was still the potential for it to fall. That's why I took the short position. It would still fit an entry signal. So I was short, but aware that it could go the other way. So my stop loss was locked in profit like this. In case the trade was to come higher, I wanted to get out and make sure I didn't get stuck in a losing trade. And what happens? It comes up and takes off and never comes back the rest of the day and continues higher overnight, and actually would have been a loss if I had not locked my stop loss. So this is a great example of why locking the stop is always going to be the right decision. Now, sometimes you're going to lock the stop and it's going to tap you out, and it might continue in the direction that you thought it was going to move. You're going to have to be okay with that. If a re-entry signal doesn't present, you can't jump back in just because it's moving that way. You got to just take your entry signal, follow your exit rules, and do it every time it presents. You can't just jump in off emotion. And part of these exit rules I want to show you, this is my exit management sheet. So for my best setups, I'm closing 50% of the trade at 2R, and that's when I look to move the stop loss. These are my best A setups. That's why I wait until I'm at 2R to move my stop loss. Compare that to my C setups. At 1R, I take 50% of the trade off in profit and I lock my stop loss there, because some of these C setups, just like this one here, don't always continue in the direction you thought it would. So you got to just get out and go find a better trade. So here's the example of that, and that's why I always think you got to lock your stop loss. Now, it's, again, depending on the grade that you give the trade, when you should lock that, it's different, but always lock the stop loss and take profits. My fourth tip, I think this is one of the most important ones, is that you got to stay open-minded to new information. And I think that part of that is be willing to be wrong in your trade ideas. And also, if you have a system that backs this idea up, you can actually be willing to trade the opposite way if your original idea doesn't develop the way that you were thinking. So here, the example that I can give you is this was this morning's trade on CAD JPY. I was looking for this to move higher today, but Dennis and some of the other guys in our ASFX community were looking at this to potentially come short. I wasn't sold that it was going to fall short, but I also wasn't sold that it was going to go long. So I stayed out of the trade completely, and as you can see, the trade ends up coming lower. So this is where my open-mindedness will not lock me into having to buy this today. Instead, I just stay open-minded and say, I really don't know where this is going. Let's just watch. We can learn from this and do better next time we see something like this present, maybe. Maybe I can be more flexible to then look for this to come short. Another new thing that I would say has helped me stay open-minded is always be willing to try like a new indicator. As you can see here, I'm testing out volume profile, or be willing to watch some new YouTube videos or new blogs that just get me thinking a different way. Even if I watch it or read it and I don't like it, at least I'm still being open-minded to still hear other people's perspectives, other people's ideas, and that even stems down into the way that we communicate in our community, in our Discord group every morning, where we're talking about trade ideas. Staying open-minded to say, hey, just because I'm long biased, that doesn't mean that I'm always right and that it has to move higher. This could come lower, and what can I learn from that? That's the right approach to trading. My fifth tip, my last tip for today's video, is that you really should, once you find a winning system, you really should ignore what other people are doing. If you have a system that you can backtest and prove profitable, that's all you need to focus on. What people are doing on social media, what people are saying they're doing on Twitter, it doesn't matter. What matters is the system that you have in front of you. How well can you execute it? Is it proven that it works through backtesting and through forward testing in the live market? If so, that's all you need. That writes your ticket. So I think a lot of new traders, myself even included, will sometimes get distracted by what's going on in the noise in social media land. And in reality, all that matters is what trades we're making, the decisions we're making at the desk. And what that comes back to is the system that you're following. So if you have questions about a system, or if you want to learn more about our system, the ASFX systems, click the link in the description. I put some links down there where you can get more info. Watch some other of my free YouTube videos. See for yourself the systems in action. You can see recaps of my recent trades. You can see recaps with some of our coaches and how they're using the systems, so you can really dive into this idea of systematic entry and exit signals, controlled risk management, and controlled trade management. Like you saw from that exit sheet, how I know exactly where to move my stop and when to take profit, and I do it the same way every time because that's what the testing tells me works. So I hope these 5 tips help you. Like I said, comment below. Let me know which of the 5 tips sticks out to you the most and that you're looking to focus on in 2021 as we head forward into the new year. I hope the first month of trading wrapped up well for you. And if there's anything I can do for you, please, like I said, comment below, send me an email, DM me, just make sure it's the real me. And I appreciate the time that you give me for this video. Make sure you're subscribed, give it a thumbs up if you like it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.